Okay, thank all of you once again for being here tonight. We're glad to have you. And we just praise God for what He's doing. It isn't wonderful for men to get together like this and just have a time of fellowship. Tonight, before we leave, if you need prayer, we want to pray for you tonight. Just anything's going on.
Can you turn that down?
Yeah, turn your music down. So we do thank all of you for being here. Like I said, before we leave, we'll have a time of prayer. And just looking forward to what the Lord has for us tonight. We're glad to have Brother Ken Dail with us tonight. And he's prepared. He's ready to bring us a word tonight. So let's welcome Brother Ken as he comes tonight to bring us what the Lord says on his heart.
I have slow room. Well, this is how God works. I tell people all this all the time. I go to a lot of worship events, a lot of conferences and stuff. And when I go there, I just don't go to go. I go there to experience God. I go there to fellowship with other believers. And when I go, I expect God to show up in some way or another. You know. Right. And I asked him, I said, most time when I go there, I said, Lord, if you want me to have a word, give me a word, And we know that we can read the Bible. You can get the word many ways. Right. And but just one of the ways he speaks to me a lot of times is at a worship setting. Mm-hmm. And so the first thing I did, I said, Lord, give me a word. And so after I was expecting it all the way up there. It was in Virginia. And when I got there, it wasn't quite what I thought, because when I got there, a friend of mine, Chris Hardy, he was playing, and I get there, and I'm by myself, and I go in there, and all I see is women in there. I said, am I at the right place? And anyway, so I sat down, and then I saw another guy come in, and so I said, well, at least I feel a little bit better. And it was about probably 30 women there. And then before all over, so I read the guys finally showed up, about 5 or 6 more guys showed up, so I felt good. But it was funny because the band that was playing, they was an all-boys band. So anyway, but this particular thing was called The Well. And so anyway, I was asking the Lord, I said, okay, Lord, after about the second song, I says, I just sit down and started opening the Bible. I said, okay, Lord, give me a word. And I'm looking through the thing, and it's kind of like, light bulb, I want to give you the words right there on the thing, The Well. I said, well, I'll just go and start reading that. And when I started reading it, he just started downloading to me and everything. And so anyway, so I put it in my quiver so that I had to be prepared. So anyway, so I put it in my notes and stuff. And anyway, I said, well, this will be for some time, okay? So anyway, this Sunday morning, it was on Wednesday night. Well, anyway, the pastor was preaching, and I had put this here word kind of stowed it away a little while. Well, anyway, he had said something about the well, and it just come up to me. I said, So that was on Wednesday. Friday, Saturday morning, I wake up. No, it was Saturday afternoon you called me, and I didn't get back with you. And so it was Sunday morning, about 1:30 in the morning. I got indigestion or heartburn, so I get up, can't find no Tums or whatever. So I always heard the old saying, you take a spoonful of vinegar. So I went there and took a spoonful of vinegar. Well, that will wake you up. Well, that will wake me up. Said I tried to go back to sleep, and 3:30 I'm still twisting, turning, just wide awake. So I said, well, just we'll get up and read the word. So I got up and started reading the word, and all of a sudden the Lord starts go right back to this well again. He started downloading stuff. I wrote about 3.5 pages of it just for the time and everything. So after church Sunday morning, I called you up, and the first thing you asked me if I could speak. And I knew, I said, I didn't even have prayer about it. I already had the word, And I knew the Lord was going to give me something, so this is what it's for. And when I start talking about this, it's the woman at the well. And you're like, where's he talking about the woman at the well at a men's thing? And I'm kind of thinking this too now, So I started reading on this and stuff, and I'm trying to put stuff in perspective. But then the Lord showed up, and he showed me what to do. Okay, so we're going to go into familiar chapter, John 4, talking about the woman at the well. Let me put my eyes on, and we'll go right to it. John 4:1. Therefore, when the Lord knew that the Pharisees had heard that Jesus made and baptized more disciples than John, though Jesus himself did not baptize, but his disciples, he left Judea and departed again to Galilee. But in verse 4, it says, but he needed to go through Samaria. And then some translators said he had to go through Samaria. So, okay. So then verse 5, so he came to the city of Samaria, which is called Sychar, near the plot of grain that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Now Jacob's well was there. Jesus therefore, being wearied from his journey, sat thus by the well. It was about the 6th hour. A woman of Samaria came to draw water. Jesus said to her, give me a drink. All right, so, well, they took a bit more. For his disciples had gone away into the city to buy food. Then the woman of Samaria said to him, how is it that you, being a Jew, asked me for a drink, a Samaritan woman? For Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans. Okay, so then we start breaking it down a little bit. Okay, Jesus said he needed to go through Samaria. Why would Jesus need to go through Samaria? Was he thirsty? Well, yeah, Jesus was part human nature, so he can get thirsty. But this ain't why. But anyway, that might be just a little teeny part. It might be 10% up, but the 90% he had a different thing. All right, and in verse 6 it says, Jesus came to Jacob's well after that long tiresome walk. So they say it was somewhere 30-some miles to 40 miles where that walk he had to do. And at this time he said he sat down. And it was around noontime. Okay, so, here's Jesus. He's coming to the well to get some water. He sits down because he's tired. And he sits down at the well and he's kind of just waiting for somebody to come back. Well, just so happened in verse 7, it says a Samaritan woman came to draw water. And Jesus said to her, give me a drink. A Samaritan woman came to draw water from the well. Why? Well, she needed water, right? She came with it. And when she brought her water pot. And guess what it was in? She had to come, that's why she came to the well, to fill up the water. Okay? She expected to get it filled up. So she came to that well expecting to dip that pot in the water and get a full thing, a vessel, so she could carry it back to do what she needed to do with it. She came not wanting to see people leave her. We'll pick that up on a little bit later. Why did she come at noontime? The hottest part of the day, because it says around the 6th hour, which is around noontime. Because of, well, we'll talk about that later too. 9, in verse 8, it says, for his disciples had gone away to the city to buy food. So guess what? Jesus went and sat down at this well. His disciples said, we're going to go get some lunch. We'll bring you something back, okay? So he said, I'll sit here. Y'all go right on here. Because he knew somebody was coming.
Come on.
But anyway, so he's sitting down by the well. And all of a sudden, this Samaritan woman come up. Now, and so it's just him and her. So they can have a conversation without anybody butting in. So it says, this woman of Samaria said to him, how is it you, a Jew, kind of sarcastic too, you, a Jew, ask me, a Samaritan woman, for a drink? For do you know, because she's trying to tell Jews, you know Jews don't have nothing to do with us and we don't have nothing to do with them. No dealings. So why? Jesus answered and said to her, if you only knew the gift of God, who it is who says to you, give me a drink, you would have asked him and he would have given you living water. Okay, so after Jesus has asked her to give him a drink, and guess what? All right, she's already saying, okay, you Jews don't want nothing to do with us. Okay? But he's asking her for a drink, and she says, well, what do you got to dip with? Where you going to put it in? So he was getting on her level saying, look here, I don't mind a drink behind you. I don't mind for you to have a cup of your water. She's never had a Jew, and most likely another man to tell her something like that. Okay? Because, back then, women were second class. And then if you ain't a Jew, a pure Jew, so to speak, because this Samaritan, come find out, Samaritans is kind of half-breeds. They've been intermarried with the other foreigners. Israelites, because they have been captured from another king before. And then when they left a few Israelites there, then the other foreigners come in, and then they started intermarrying. And then the Jews said, look here, we don't have, especially the the Jews that was more religious, so to speak, they wouldn't dare step foot going through Samaria. So, so she was trying to wonder, why are you coming through Samaria? But you did come through there, so why are you even asking me for something? You ain't even supposed to do this. Right. I mean, that's what she's saying. So she was surprised. So she starts questioning. And she says, she knows who she is and what she is, so to speak. Okay? She's a Samaritan woman. She's a woman first. Then she's a Samaritan woman. And they like I say, this half-breed or mixed, whatever you want to call them. Back then, that's what it was called them. And she knows he's a man, but he's a Jew. So she knows they're two totally opposite from each other. Why are we having this conversation? Why are you asking anything from me? I come here later on to get away from this stuff. Because her background was she had already had a lot of marriages. A lot of broken marriages. 5 to be exact. And the one she was living with now, she was shacking up with. So she had already been through all this here stuff. So the last thing she wants to do is have to deal with another man. And, because sooner or later, she's probably thinking, he's going to start asking me some questions, whatever, I heard this, I heard that, whatever, because she's heard this all her life. People's talked about her, the gossip, the orangutans about her. That's the one that's got 5 working on number 6, And she's a half-breed to start with, just on and on and on. Okay, so she's saying that I know who I am, and I know who he is, so why are we talking to each other? She said Jews had no dealings with the Samaritans. So she's thinking, if this guy only knew my reputation, not only would he just wouldn't talk to me, he wouldn't even look at me. He probably wouldn't even stand close to me, because somebody might accuse him of me of doing something. So he would haul butt, right?
That's a good point.
Because she had been riding the... What's that?
That's a good point.
Yeah. And because she had been riding the block many times with many women, many men. And was shacking up night. All right? And now in verse 10, Jesus answered her and said, if you knew the gift and who it is who says to you, give me a drink, you would have asked him, and he would give you this living water. So the woman said to him, sir, you had nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where then do you get this living water? So they're having this conversation because she's kind of interested now. Okay, is this guy trying to pull a fashion on me or what? She says, I know how you got to come to this well, you got to bring your pot, you got to dip it, and then you got to carry it with you, right? So she knows how the deal is. This ain't her first time at this well. She's done this daily. Because why she come to get the water? Because the water is the source of living. You either drink it, you wash with it, you feed, you water your animals with it, or you water your produce with it. Your food. So it's all about living with this water. So she had to have the water. But since she says, you have nothing to draw with. The well is deep. Where do you get this here living water? And then she comes up here in verse 12. She says, are you greater than our father Jacob? So now, and everybody probably knows Jacob. Jacob's a very well-known guy. But this is years on, later. Okay? But everybody knows his ancestors and stuff like that. And whose dad is who and all this stuff. Okay? So she's telling him, she said, are you greater than our father? So she's putting herself in the family of Jacob. So she's kind of letting Jesus know, look here, I'm from Jacob. We know about this. Jacob dug this thing. Right. He drank from this thing. His sons drank from this thing. His livestock drank from this thing. You're right? This water produced, watered all this stuff. So the thirst. And Jesus said to her, whoever drinks of this water will thirst again. But whoever drinks of the water that I shall give him will never thirst. But the water that I give him will become in him a fountain of water springing up into everlasting life. Okay, now it's caught the woman's attention. Now the woman said to him, sir, give me this water. Okay, remember the first time she talked to him, you Jew. Kind of sarcastic. But now, after he started to tell her some things, she's calming down. She's saying, now she's kind of respecting. Sir. So she's getting kind of curious. Give me this water that I may not thirst again. Whether she said it sarcastic or not, I don't think so. But the way she called him sir, coming from that you Jew to sir. Okay? And Jesus said to her, go call your husband and come here. Then the woman answered and said, I have no husband. And Jesus said to her, you have said well, you have no husband, for you have had 5 husbands, and the one you with now, the one you're shacking up with now, and truly you spoke. Okay? So the woman said to him, Sir, again, but then she says, I perceive you as a prophet. Because why? Because now you reading my mail. You're telling me all my dark secrets. So I know you're just not no ordinary guy now. Don't get too far ahead. Okay. She said, Jesus, give me this water so that I may not get thirsty again. I won't have to come out of this hot water. See, one thing she wants to get this water again because she knows every day she's got to take that trip down to that well. Every day she can't come in the morning hours because the other women's coming. Because the other women are saying, that's the one who's got 5 working on 6. You know. So so the gossip is going right. So she's feeling belittled. So now instead of going through all them stairs and all that back talking and all that stuff, she says, I'll just wait there. Everybody leaves. At noontime, nobody's at the well. I'll go at the well and get it in. Okay? That's what she's thinking. And that's the way she does. So, but when he says, I give you water that thirst again, she says, wait a minute now. If you give me this water that I don't thirst again, I ain't got to come to this well. I ain't got to make that trip. And it's hot out here at noontime. She said, this is a kind of a win-win situation if I can get this deal going on. Because this woman just wanted to stay away from people. So she can't hear about all this is the stuff that's going on. She says, I don't want to get thirsty anymore. I don't want to have to make this hot trip. I don't want to have to keep hearing tales about my life. I don't want to see the stares at me anymore. I am tired of feeling like a nobody, a useless person. So, all right, so then she says, I perceive you as a prophet. But then look at her now. In verse 20, she's switching the whole thing around now. Because she's trying to get it off of her. She says, our fathers worship on this mountain because the Jacob's well is close to the mountain. Where they are, kind of like at the foot of the mountain. So she's kind of like, you see that mountain right there? That's where we worship at. But you Jews, y'all worship back in Jerusalem. So she's trying to get it because she said, this guy's a prophet. So see, if she can start talking about a religious thing, it'll get him off my back. He'll stop talking about my past. So she's trying to switch it for that. She starts talking about worship. She said, that'll get him. She wants to get the focus off of her. Then Jesus 21 said to her, woman, believe me, the hour is coming when you will neither worship on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You will worship the Father. You'll worship what you do not know, but we worship what we know. For salvation is of the Jews. But the hour is coming and is nigh, that true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For the Father is seeking such to worship him. God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship him in spirit and truth. Okay, Jesus now is pointing to the future about worship. He said, it is not about locked into one specific location, but it's how we worship, not where we worship. He's talking about when the veil was torn. It gave us the access to the Holy of Holies, to the throne room of grace. It's all about the attitude of the heart of worship, not about a place. Don't put God in the box. 25 and 26. The woman said to him, I know the Messiah is coming, who is called the Christ. When he comes, he will tell us all things. So this woman does have some religious background because she's still an Israelite. So she's still, and the Samaritans worship just like the Jews did, but they had different ways they did it. So, but they still had a fight between the Jews and the Samaritans. They still didn't like each other, but they still worshiped Yahweh. So, but they didn't. But some of the ways they didn't do it exactly like the Jews did. So, you know, in other words, if you don't worship like me, you ain't nothing. That's what to say. And both of them looking at each other kind of the same way now. But I think the Jews looked down on them more, which made them start hating them. So it was like a back and forth thing. And then she says, I know the Messiah, who is called the Christ. When he comes, he was telling them. Jesus said to her, I who speak to you am he. So now this is Jesus revealing himself who he really is. And he don't do that much in the Bible. But to this woman, he did. He says, I am who you've been seeking, or who you are seeking. Then it says in 28, let's go back to 27. And at this point, his disciples came and they marveled that Jesus had taught. They was in awe because of Jesus. No, not awe. They were ecstatic because Jesus was talking to a woman, a Samaritan woman at that. But in their mind, they were saying, in other words, if he only knew who he was talking to, or why is he talking to her? But they only said it into themselves. They didn't say it to Jesus himself, but Jesus only knew what he was saying. But then after Jesus had told, says, I am who you were seeking. It says the woman left her water pot and she went her way into the city. Okay? This water pot is very important because it's about life for these here women, for these here families, because that water wasn't just about her. It was about her family too, about the livestock, about the produce. So it's all about living. But for her to leave that water pot, is very distinct. Because she left the pot, she went into the city, and she said to the men, so now, not only did she leave her water pot, now she's going back and talking to people, telling them what encounter she had with Jesus. Okay? That's something else big too, because, she was closed in because everybody's been talking about it. And then if you start talking to men, they're going to start saying that she's talking to more men, she wants more men, But she didn't care what the people thought. She didn't care about the water pot. The only thing she wanted to do is, she was so excited what Jesus did, she wanted to tell other people about what he was talking about. He said things about me. He knew things about me. But also, during all this time, he never once scolded her. He said, even to the time of the simple thing, it says, give me a drink. And he didn't have that drink with her, so he was willing to drink behind her. He wasn't saying, look here, I can't drink behind you because you are this or you are that. I'm better than you. He wasn't saying that. He was putting himself on her level, saying, I come for you too. You all right? So she went to the men of the city and said, look here, this guy, this Christ, told me everything I've ever done. Could this be the Christ? So now she saw this guy as a Jew. She saw him as a prophet, and now she's saying, is this the Christ? So now that brain is just twirling now. She's thinking. In the meantime, his disciples urged him, saying, Rabbi, eat. But he said to them, I have food to eat of which you do not know. Therefore the disciples said to him, has anybody else brought him food, anything to eat? Jesus said to him, my food is to do the will of him who sent me, and to finish his work. Do not say there are still 4 months and then come the harvest. Behold, I say 9, the harvest is here. And he gathers, and he who reaps receives wages and gathers fruit for eternal life, that both he who sows and he who reaps may rejoice together. For in saying this is true, one sows, another reaps. I sent you to reap which you did not labor in, and others had labored, and you have entered into their labors. So in other words, some sow, some harvest. You might harvest something someone else sowed. You might sow something that someone else is going to harvest. All right, after the woman told all these people in the city of Samaria, it said, and many Samaritans of that city believed in him because of the word of the woman who testified. By her testimony, they believed.
Man, come on.
All right? He told me everything I've ever done. I ever did. So when the Samaritans had come to him, they urged him to stay with them, and he stayed there 2 more days. And many more believed because of his own word. Then they said to the woman, now we believe not because of what you said, but we ourselves have heard him, and we know that indeed the Christ, the Savior of the world. So his identity has been revealed by what he's done. Okay? This is, I can't even draw, but I'm a skip. I'm just going to make pretend. Okay? I'll turn it right now. All right, this is grain, okay? This is Jacob's well. All right, everybody see that? Best you can? Okay. To get water out of this well, you got to have bucket, or pail, or pot. You got to have something to get this here water out of this well. The water in this here well, when you take water out of this well, what do? You had to dump it on something or had to use it. If you let water stay in that bucket, eventually it gets stagnated and it becomes useless for human consumption. You can still use it on your plants, but it can get stale, stagnated, and then you can't drink it. All right? So you got to use this water. But if you keep it there, it ain't doing you no bit of good. This water, but she had to bring this here, to come to this well, this bucket had to be empty first. Because she brought a full bucket to the well, it wouldn't have done her no good. If she'd have brought the stale water to the well, it wouldn't have done no good. She had to make sure that bucket was empty before she come to the well to get fresh water. This well produced water to drink, to wash, to produce crops, to water the livestock. This water from a natural source and produces a natural life. This water was a temporary fix because she came daily, like others. They came daily to get this water. If this well got trash in it, the flow of the water would stop. So you would have to keep a top on it to keep trash from out, because one thing that the enemy did back then, if they came by and they saw a well open and it was their enemy, they would fill it up with sand. Because if they did away with the water source, nobody could live in that area. So they would fill these wells up with sand. So when people come back, say if somebody left that area and they went for a while and they come back and that thing was full, they had to spend time digging that well out again so they can get that water flowing again. This well could have been just offered to certain people because she was talking about Jacob. So this is Jacob's well. In the beginning, this well was for Jacob's family. But as time went on, there may have been some people come by this well, or they could have had people to guard the well because water was so precious. They wouldn't let certain people use this well. We don't know. But during Jacob's time, it was probably, this is my well. We took time to dig this well. This is our well. This is our water because it's so precious. This well had to be to have an empty vessel to carry the water. Like with somebody, you had to have an empty vessel to come to this well so you can carry water away from this well. And if you let water just stay in the bucket, it becomes useless after a while. It gets stagnated. All right, that's Jacob's well. See if this stuff will just like it off too. Okay. Now we're going to talk about another well. We're going to talk about this here fountain of living water. And you notice the Jacob well is at grain level, okay? This water up here is going to be from heaven. This is the fountain of life. The fountain is Jesus. And the water, the living water, is the Holy Spirit. Okay, now get to this here thing right quick. These valves. So you can see this here. All right, you got the big tank up at the top, from heaven, God's tank. Well, it's got a valve coming down. I mean, he got a spike coming down, but we got a valve. We are this part. We got two valves, and we are the center part. This top valve is your inlet. This bottom valve is your outlet. If we come up to Jesus and we turn this here top one, all right, now you know Jesus up here, right? Now we keep this off. Is that going to do us any good? No. Not one bit. All right? How about if we turn this one open and cut this one off? Will that do us any good? It will for a little while. For a little while. But if we don't open this valve right here, guess what? If you don't watch out, it'll get stagnated. It ain't moving. We know that you got some ponds and stuff, especially small ponds. If you don't watch out, if they ain't got enough wind blowing on that thing, it can get stagnant. But if you go to the river, where it's steady flowing, you got this freshness all the time. Okay? So what we want to do, we want to open this valve up so we can receive all that God got for us.
Come on.
Amen.
All right, and this is us holding it. We are a tank right here. But the thing about it is, right here, guess what? You got 4 or 5 people, or whoever, how many you got in your circle. If you don't open this valve up, they're not going to get in it. Right?
Good point.
So you got to open this valve. Well, sometimes you say, well, if I open this valve, I ain't going to get no more. I'm going to be stingy. No. If you open this valve, you get more freshness. It just runs through you.
That's
Runs
good.
through you. See, and then when it comes to these people, they got the same thing. All the thing we can do is pour to their valve. They've got to open it up and let it pour out. If they don't let it pour out, guess what? They're going to get stagnated or they ain't going to get nothing, 1 to 2.
Right.
So they got to open their valves up. So it's just like this here, this woman. If you get back to the woman at the well, okay, she got her she had her bucket, right? She went to go get it filled up. But guess what? She carried 2 empty vessels with her that day. One was a bucket. The other one was her heart.
Come on. That's good.
So she left one of the vessels there at the well. But the other vessel, this vessel right here, she had cracked that valve and didn't even know it. Because Jesus saw her. So she had cracked that because, see, how did she crack the valve? Because of conversation with Jesus. You know, at first, you know, she had that valve tight because she said, "You Jew." And then after he started talking to her, she said, "Wait a minute, this guy ain't like all the rest of them." See, she cracks it a little bit. And all of a sudden, when Jesus starts getting in you, after a while, starts getting gooder and
Come
gooder,
on.
you start opening that valve up, right?
That's right.
And all of a sudden, she got that thing open. And she's so bubbly, and what Jesus has done for her, guess what? She ain't just casually, she's hauling butt to the city because she's excited, because she's pregnant with the Holy Spirit in her, because Jesus just filled her up.
Yeah.
So now she's got something in her that she's got to get out. And she said, I got to tell somebody.
Yes, come on.
I don't know what to do, but I got to tell
Yes.
somebody. So guess what? She opened that valve right there. She opened that valve right there. She started opening up. Because it said she went to the men of that city. And she opened the valve up on them. And then it's up to them. What they going to do?
That's right.
Well, since some of them received it. And some of them were still curious. So the ones who were curious, they didn't, I don't even know if they had it cracked or not, but they was curious about it. So they said, well, let me just go see what she's talking about. Well, when they started going there and started listening to him, guess what? They started cracking their valves. And everybody started getting filled up with the Spirit. So, Jesus, the top part of the heaven jug, the heaven massive tank, okay? He's got it open. He had it for that woman. He opened it up on that woman. He's opening it up on me. He's opening it up on you, and you, and you. But it's up to you to turn this valve. You've got to turn this valve. And like I say, and when you turn your valve to get full, you got to do something with the other valve. You just can't turn one valve. Or you can't, after I got full, I cut this one off, I got enough, I don't need no more. Guess what? You cut it all off, you ain't going to be there long. You're going to dry up. But you start opening that thing up. And when you start opening it up, you say, I can get a little bit more. And the more you let it flow, the more you want. And it's when you want to distribute just as much as you can. Keep it fresh. Because the fresher it is, the gooder it is.
Oh, come on. I like to
Fresh bread. Fresh bread. So, one of the questions I asked you in the very beginning was Jesus thirsty? I told you he was a little bit for water, but it was a lot for her soul. Hey, he said, I had to go to Samaria because there's a woman there. I want her soul. She needs filling up. And guess what? And I know if I fill her up, I know what she'll do with it.
That's good.
He was thirsty for her soul. And guess what? When she came to that well, she was empty. But when she left, she was full. That pot was still empty. but she was full. And it shows you that Jesus does not care about your past, because she had a past and a half.
Thank God.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank God.
He said she had a past and a half, but Jesus wants your future. He don't want your past. He can handle your past. He can do away with your past, but he wants your future. Does this living water mean you won't ever thirst again? No. Because he said in Matthew 5:6, we still have to hunger and thirst for righteousness. He says in Psalm 42:1, our hearts still pant after God like the deer for that water brook. But it's a different thirst now. First, it's a thirst because we don't know who he is, but now it's a thirst because we want no other.
Amen.
Psalms 34:8, taste and see that God ain't good. All right, and the last one, okay, we talked about this here one, but to go back to chapter 3, it's about a Jewish man, Nicodemus. He came to Jesus one night. The difference between him and her, Nicodemus was a Jewish man. She was a half-breed, unnamed woman. Nicodemus was an influential leader. She was a nobody. He was an upper middle class. She was lower class. He was educated. She was uneducated. He was morally upright. She was immoral. He had the orthodox faith. She had an unorthodox faith. Nicodemus sought Jesus because he saw what Jesus was doing. She had no idea who Jesus was, but Jesus sought after her. He came at night. She came at noon. He responded slowly and rationally, trying to figure this thing out. She responded quickly and emotionally. But Jesus loved them both. Jesus came to seek and to save all types of people. Luke 19:10. He came to seek and save the lost. The woman was not only going to the well for herself, but she was going for the family. But Jesus gave her that living water, not only just for her, but for whoever she comes in contact with. Not for just her family, but whoever she comes in contact with. So, the end is, do you got your valves open? Don't do this. Don't do that. Open your valve. Why you want to open your valve? Because somebody opened the valve for you.
Amen.
Jesus opened the valve, but somebody else opened the valve because people steady pouring into y'all, pouring into me. So open your valves. Get filled, open your valves. Keep the valves going. And no matter just who it is, because Jesus died for all. Whether the rich, whether the poor, whether the hims or the hers, Jesus died for us all.
Good word.
He's about ready to get out of the spout when the glory comes out.
Yeah, come on.
Keep your valve open. Keep your heart open. I was thinking when you were doing that little illustration there. When Dad lived in Williamson, my daddy put down wells and worked with water pumps all our lives. And every now and then we had to do a thing we had to blow the well out. That means we had to clean it out. The screen or the point would get stopped up. Anybody know what I'm talking about? And every now and then you just have to prime the pump, clean it out, and get going again. How do you not want to clean everything out and get filled again?
Yeah.
Let's stand, everybody. If you will. Thank you.